Okay, chapter 10.5 is tangents. And a tangent is a line in the same plane as a circle that intersects the circle in exactly one point. So it is what's going through just a little smidge of the circle. So if you look at that, and we call this the point of tangency. So right there, A would be the point of tangency. Okay, so what's this have to do with anything? Well, I'm going to show you. If you take a look, the shortest distance from the tangency to the center of the circle is the radius. So when that radius gets drawn, a 90-degree angle is created. So if you look right here, you've got a 90-degree angle. So here's our tangent, and the point where it hits the side of the circle is T, and from T to S is a straight line, and we have a perpendicular situation with these two, which causes the 90-degree angle. Okay, remember this means perpendicular. All right, when we have a 90-degree angle, guess what we're going to be using? Yep, you got it. I heard you say it. Pythagorean Theorem. So if you take a look, if we have, and again, as always with geometry, you have got to read the directions, because sometimes it's asking you to determine whether something's tangent. Other times it will tell you that it's tangent. Okay, so you've got to pay attention to what it's what the directions are. Now I want to show you in this little situation there, and you may run across this here and there. Notice if I go from J to L, I have a radius. I also have from J to the side another radii. And if you look, you'll see that this equals 9. So we had to put both 8 and 9 together to get that side of the triangle. Remember, you're always looking for where's the 90-degree angle, because that's how you know what is c squared. So in this case, 17 is going to be c squared. They showed you right here. So it would be 8 squared plus 15 squared equals 17 squared. And if you get the same answer, then you know that yes, check mark, this is tangent. Okay? Yes, check mark, line KL is tangent to the circle. Okay? So be real careful of that. Watch what your directions are, and watch and see if they've given you, let me erase real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Watch and see if they've given you the information for the whole line, or if they just gave you a part and you have to add the radius to it. Okay, so be very careful of that. On to the next slide. Okay, so if you'll notice in these directions, you see that it is telling us already that it is tangent. So we know automatically that we have a 90-degree angle, which means this is what's going to be across from the 90-degree angle. So that's going to be our c squared, so to speak. But notice we've got x plus 8 squared. Okay, equals x squared plus 12 squared. Now, these aren't my favorite, and I won't show them to, excuse me, I won't show them to you very often like this, because there's a little extra math to be done. This ends up being, and this is pulling back way back from your algebra. And if you'll remember, those of you that were with me, I showed you the box method. And so it's x plus 8 times x plus 8. Some of you may have learned FOIL. But if you did the box, x times 8 is 8x, x times 8 is 8x, and 8 times 8 is 64. It's kind of like the Punnett square. And so that's where I got all of that. And what I want you to do in these cases, because I don't necessarily want to get back into the algebra part right now, but I do want you to get everything off to one side and give me a final solution. So like if you look at the example they gave you right here, oh, actually you can on this one, sorry. I was thinking you couldn't completely solve, but you can. So if we move, let's say we move x squared over here. Oh, and I'm going to run into the other problem. Let me move this up just a little bit. Oh no, the whole thing moved. Okay, well, we'll get this over to the other side. That'll go away, which is what we want. And this is going to go away. So we'll end up with 144 equals 16x plus 64. And then we'll move the 64 over. And minus 64. And when we do that, we get 80 equals 16x. It looked a little intimidating to begin with, but because this guy and this guy canceled out, it was something that you could deal with. This was the only part that was a little different, is using that box again, the Punnett square. And so then 5 would equal x. That would be what you would be missing right there. Now, here's a practice one. This is determine if GH is tangent. So we don't know whether it is or not, but we do know that our 90-degree angle is here. We do know that they've left off your 6. So you'd have 8 squared plus 6 squared equals 12 plus 6. Whoops, let me just simplify that. 12 plus 6, which would be 18 squared. So 18 squared is 324. And 6 squared is 36. And 8 squared is 64. And 64 plus 36 gives me 100. So it does not equal 324. So this one would not be tangent. So line GH would not be tangent to circle F. Sometimes in a circle you can have 2 line segments that are going to be tangent to the same circle. And again, we're reading the directions. I know this is crazy, right? Reading the directions. But in the directions, it's going to tell you whether it's tangent or not. And when that happens, when 2 segments from the same circle are tangent, then they are considered congruent. So if you'll notice in our example, this tells us right off the bat that it's tangent. If it's tangent, that means these are equal. And if they're equal, yep, I heard you say it, set them equal. X plus 15 equals 2x minus 5. And then you solve to find that x equals 20. So just watch for those. It almost looks like an ice cream cone when that comes off there like that. The 2 lines off of the circle are equal, so you just set them equal and solve. Okay, so there are 3 practice problems on here. I'm just going to highlight, in the sake of time, what you really need to be looking for. So in this first one, always remember that wherever the point of tangency is, that is where your right angle is, so that you can do your, oh, that's terrible. But you get the point. Right there's my right angle. So point of tangency is where the right angle is, so you know what your where your c squared is, okay? So when you see this set up, you know you're going to do Pythagorean Theorem. When you see this set up, you know you're going to set them equal and solve for x. Here's the only setup you haven't seen yet. And basically it's 3 of those ice cream cones shoved together. So 8, this is 8, then this is 8. Okay? So 8 plus 8, well, let's work our way around here. So we know that this whole side is 13.2. So 13.2 minus 8 will give us 5.2, which is what this equals. If that equals 5.2, then this equals 5.2. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's just a big puzzle. You're going all the way around. Okay, so if I have 5.2 here, and then I have 5.2 here, well, I know that this is going to have to be 11.4 minus 5.2, which is going to be 6.2. So that means these corners are 6.2. Okay, now some of these problems you'll see they'll ask you for the perimeter of the triangle, which means I'm going to have to add 13.2, 11.4, and then this was an 8, and this was 6.2. So I'd add all of those numbers up, okay? So there's no need, if you only see the little numbers, the 8 and the 5.2 and the 5.2 and the 6.2, that's perfectly fine. Add all of those little numbers up. But the point is, you've got to go all the way around the shape. Here to here, here to here, and here to here. That's only if it asks for perimeter. So watch, again, read those directions and see what it's asking you. Okay, and now on to your practice. Let me know if you have questions, and I hope to see you online at 9.